welcome to Requiro. Today we are going to be talking about mental and visible disabilities, and this is like a little series I'm doing where I go over all the different types of invisible disabilities because they're all underneath a umbrella term and there's like different types. Invisible disabilities affect a lot of people and no one sees it, and they're all underneath a umbrella term, and I'm just separating them in different categories. So my last video on this topic I covered invisible disabilities but the learning disability side of things, and then I have another video talking about invisible disabilities but more the physical kind of things of like chronic pain and etc. of that kind of stuff. So in this video I'm just going to be covering mental invisible disabilities, and in this week's video I won't be talking about mental health invisible disabilities even if it's underneath that category of mental disabilities, the mental health side of things. I will make an entirely separate video on that, but you'll see as me going forward I did have quite a bit of difficulty when I was doing research in this video to like separate the mental health side of things and then also just the regular invisible mental disabilities. You'll see that as further on in the video. So funny thing is, today as me filming this video, it is currently Halloween, like October 31st as me filming this video, and I didn't want to like throw a silly costume on because this is a serious topic. I didn't want to come off as like disrespectful, but I kind of also want to get into the season, so embrace devil horns. Ta-da! So yeah, anyway, embrace devil horns because I want to get into the festive season. So, and also don't worry, this is like the only holiday I actually do. Anyway, so hopefully this isn't too respectful because I want to get into the season, but I also know this is a serious topic, so we'll just have a little bit of fun. And yes, I've been wearing the same devil horns for Halloween for like the last 5 years, and all the sources and everything I use in this week's video will be up on the website on this week's episode, so if you guys want to go check it out, it's all there. And if there's anything I missed or got wrong or anything like that, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll sure to pin it up or I'll bring it up in my next video. And I am one person working on all these videos, so I will make mistakes, and I do appreciate when you guys tell me I made a mistake. I am human. So now let's get into the video. So this is the definition of what a mental disability is, so I'll pop it up on the screen for you guys.
Mental disorders are conditions that affect your thoughts, emotions and behavior. There are more than 200 types, like depression, anxiety and schizophrenia. You may have mood swings, appetite changes, hallucinations or loss of interest.
So that is roughly the definition of what a mental invisible disability is, and you'll definitely see this as we go forward in the video. There is a very fine line between like mental invisible disabilities and then also mental health invisible disabilities, so you'll definitely see that as we go on in the video as like different examples. Again, I did try very hard to separate the two, again, because they are technically two different things, but you will see in the video it's very hard to like find articles and stuff that distinguish between the two. So, and also in the rough definition I showed you of the mental invisible disabilities, there's roughly over 200 different types in that category, and I'm also assuming they also have mental health in that category for those numbers to show up like that. So do keep that in mind. You will see this all through the video, but we're strictly talking about mental invisible disabilities, not mental health invisible disabilities. That will be its own separate video. Also, fun fact is, this is like the first time me being home for Halloween. Normally every year for the last 5 or 4 years I've literally just been dog sitting on Halloween. This is like the first time I'm not, so I find that kind of funny. So here I'm going to show you all the different types of mental invisible disabilities. Like I said before, there's about over 200 different types of mental invisible disabilities. Some of them could be mental health, some of them aren't mental health related. So if there's anything I missed here, please let me know. put it in the comments down below, or if you don't want to do that, you can also shoot me a quick email. I would love to learn more about that invisible mental disability that I did not have in this category. I did try my best to find all of them, but again, I am human. I do make mistakes, so if you don't see yours here, please put it in the comments down below, or shoot me a quick email if you don't want to do that, and I'll look into it, because I would love to know about it and learn more. And also, in this little bit of the video, if you see the word or even just hear the word, sometimes it's because the mental invisible disability can also affect their daily lives in a major way, but then also not really on day-to-day life. But I just felt like I needed to put that there, because sometimes it is really big and affects their lives, and then other occasions it really doesn't. This is the list of mental invisible disabilities, majority of them anyway, that I could find. So I'll pop it on screen for you guys. If I have missed any, please let me know.
Dissociative identity disorder, sometimes depersonalization derealization disorder, dissociative fugue, dissociative neurological symptom disorder, psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, other specified dissociative disorder, unspecified dissociative disorder, Ganser syndrome, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, bipolar I disorder, bipolar II disorder, bipolar disorder not otherwise specified, cyclothymia, hypomania, reactive attachment disorder, sometimes intellectual disability, language disorder, sensory processing disorder, aphasia, pervasive developmental disorder, communication disorder, Tourette syndrome, Down syndrome. It is a mental and also physical disability, tic disorder, insomnia, hypersomnia, idiopathic hypersomnia, Klein-Levin syndrome, insufficient sleep syndrome, narcolepsy, restless legs syndrome, sleep apnea, night terrors, exploding head syndrome, nightmare disorder, rapid eye movement sleep behavior disorder, confusional arousals, sleepwalking, hypnagogic hallucinations, hypnopompic hallucinations, circadian rhythm sleep disorder, delayed sleep phase disorder, advanced sleep phase disorder, irregular sleep-wake rhythm, non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder, circadian rhythm sleep-wake disorder caused by irregular work shifts, jet lag, obsessive-compulsive disorder OCD, intermittent explosive disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, antisocial personality disorder, pyromania, kleptomania, mythomania, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, hoarding disorder, phantom limb syndrome, primarily obsessional obsessive compulsive disorder, brief psychotic disorder, delusional disorder, delusional misidentification syndrome, paraphrenia, psychosis, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, schizophreniform disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, shared delusional disorder.
So that was the list of basically mental invisible disabilities. Again, if there's any of them I missed or I didn't cover, please let me know. That are strictly just mental invisibilities, not mental health related invisible disabilities. I feel like I'm gonna keep doing that in this entire video, but I do feel like I need to make that clear in this week's video. I generally do not know why today, as me filming this video, my brain is just you will be blank and you don't know how to read or talk or do whatever. I don't know what's going on. It's been happening a lot lately when I try to start filming these videos. Your brain just feels clogged. I think it's called brain fog. I've been getting that a lot lately when I'm making these videos, and I have no idea why. I'm literally sitting in front of my phone talking with no one around, and my brain just feels clogged. I don't know why I'm getting them when I sit down to make these videos. There we go, a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff when I make these. So, like I've mentioned for this, probably the last 10 minutes of me in this video, mentioning there is a difference between mental invisible disabilities and then mental health invisible disabilities. So, there's a clip from a little article I was reading when I was making this video that I found very interesting and does explain it very well, the difference between the two, because there is a difference between mental invisible disabilities and then also mental health. So those two categories are different, even if they're shoved underneath the same umbrella and talked as one thing when they are two separate things. So I'll pop it up on screen for you guys.
Mental health conditions often fluctuate. A person may experience an episode of depression or anxiety, recover fully, and continue with life. In contrast, a psychosocial disability usually reflects a longer-term, ongoing experience of mental health challenges that continue to affect daily functioning over time. For example, someone might recover from a single episode of mental illness, while another person experiences persistent symptoms that make work, study, or relationships more difficult. In simple terms, mental health conditions can be temporary or episodic. Psychosocial disabilities are long-term and often require continuous support.
So that's like the little bit I found. I did try my best to find a really good example explaining the difference between mental invisible disabilities and then mental health, because they are put in the same catalog. It's voice over me, so I have no idea why in this video I keep saying catalog, not category. When I was filming this video, I 100% thought I said category, not catalog, and it's not one of those speech dyslexia things I get muddled up compared to other words. I very much know the difference and can say the difference between category and catalog. So anyway, I'm just gonna blame this on the brain fog I was having that day. Anyway, so I have no idea why I kept doing that. Anyway, okay, bye. And there is a very fine line between the two, but they are different. And when I was doing this research, I came across this article that I found very interesting, where it's basically saying we need to treat mental invisible disabilities and also mental health completely separately compared to like just treating them as one thing. So I did find it very interesting. I do recommend you guys to go read the article after this because it is very interesting. So I'll put it up on screen for you guys, the bit that I want to show you from this article. So I'll pop it on screen for you guys.
Whole disability, whether defined as a functional impairment in terms of the DSM-IV or as a limitation of an individual's activities as is done in the International Classification of Functioning, Disability and Health, ICF, one must be assessed separately and not as a part of the individual's mental illness. It would be wrong to make the diagnosis dependent on the presence or absence of disability. Disability is produced by mental disorder, but it also depends on simultaneously present comorbid diseases or impairments. The latter is becoming a consideration of growing importance. A significant proportion of people with mental illness also suffer from physical illnesses, and it is therefore difficult if not impossible to assess to what an extent the disability is caused by the mental disorder, and to what extent it is produced by the comorbid conditions. In clinical work and for research purposes, the assessment of the presence of a disorder, of disability and of distress must be accompanied by an estimate of their severity. The severity of the disease is usually assessed with reference to the numbers and the frequency of occurrence of symptoms, the severity of disability by the type and number of activities in which the individual cannot take part, and the severity of distress on the basis of analogy with states that the distressed individual and the diagnostician both know and have experienced. Severity can be measured as a dimension, or as a feature that divides into several operationally defined categories. The same is true for disability and for distress, but not for the psychopathological symptoms, which must have features that make them recognizable as being qualitatively different from normal functioning. The usefulness of the framework presented above for research purposes depends on the possibility of measuring syndromes, disability, distress and their severity in reliable and valid ways. The development of instruments that will help researchers to do this is clearly a major challenge for the ICD and the DSM committees. The usefulness of the framework for clinical practice will depend on making the need for these measurements explicit and on training practitioners in making the necessary assessments.
So that was the little clip of the article I wanted to show you guys, basically saying we need to treat mental invisible disabilities separate to like mental health, and I found it very interesting, so I do recommend you guys to go read that article after this if you're curious. I think it was written really well, so I do find that article very interesting, so I do recommend to go read it because it literally mentions like everyone is different, everyone's results will show up differently, even if they have the exact same diagnosis, their symptoms will show up differently, and it doesn't matter what gender you are, it will show up different for like everyone because we are all different. So that's why it needs to be treated as a separate entire identity compared to as one category, if that makes sense here. And another really big thing about dealing with a mental invisible disability, it's really freaking hard to get diagnosed because, like I showed you before, everyone has different symptoms, everyone's different, everyone's results will show up differently, and the hardest thing about it is because it does not show up in like blood tests or anything like that. People have to deal with going through different tests and spending so much time and energy just trying to get diagnosed, and the hardest thing about it is no one actually sees it, and sadly not a lot of people will believe you as well, and especially if you're young or you're older and you don't know what it is, it would be absolutely terrifying to go through having a mental invisible disability and you have no idea what it is. That would be absolutely freaking terrifying because something's going on and you don't know what it is. So, sad fact is, a lot of people who have a mental invisible disability have to struggle with getting diagnosed, even if they're getting diagnosed with the exact same thing. And also, sadly, a lot of people like to lie, and liars get more believed than people that are telling the truth. Sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself in these videos, but that is the sad fact of a lot of things in reality. Going for that time and energy, a lot of people would get annoyed or frustrated because they're literally going through thousands of tests just to try to get diagnosed of whatever they have so they can actually get the proper help they need. By the end of it, they're probably way too tired and exhausted to keep going to get actually diagnosed because, again, it's not so easy to properly diagnose people with a invisible mental disability compared to other disabilities out there. It's very much like the seeing believing ordeal. Dealing with a mental invisible disability, it can affect your day-to-day life so much. It can affect so many different aspects of your life. It can affect how you clean, it can affect how you drive, it can affect how you cook, how you do basic tasks like getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth. It can affect your day-to-day life in such a big way, and then on top of all that, people have to deal with normal everyday people just not believing them because they literally can't see it. Like I've said in my last couple of videos, sadly, if people can't see it, they just won't believe it because, people like to lie, or people just don't care enough to actually sympathize and understand with people. And here are some Reddit comments I came across when I was doing research and all that for this video that I found very interesting, and I want to show you guys. It very much just shows people's struggles with dealing with a mental invisible disability and also regular invisible disability at the same time, but I still think it's relevant here as well for this video. But I'll put these up on the screen for you guys.
Bingo. And even when people don't think you're exaggerating or lying, all your past experiences with the people that do makes it incredibly hard to trust that other people actually believe you. You start over-justifying yourself whenever your condition causes an inconvenience for other people. You have a tally going in your head of the number of times you've told someone the same reason for why you can't attend plans/school/work. And each time it goes up within a certain period of time. You worry it will be the breaking point when that person stops believing you. On your good days, you worry that if you have too good a day, people will stop believing you. You don't want to see your doctor for new or worsening symptoms or unrelated conditions, because maybe they'll start to think you're a hypochondriac and stop believing you. You worry that if you complain or mention your medical problems too much, you'll seem like a whiner and people will stop believing you. You worry that if you don't complain or mention them enough, you'll seem like they don't affect you that badly and people will stop believing you. You become so defensive and stressed about your every little action and how it pertains to the ways people might perceive your condition. It takes so much to deal with how draining and anxiety-inducing just openly with living the condition can be. I get anxiety every time I tell someone how I feel cause I'm so scared they won't believe me. I have to use fairly strong, emotional, broad language to own a disability I don't want. Like, I can't just say what I have to explain it and share what is a really painful struggle for me, just to get to a modicum of understanding. That in itself is exhausting, when all I want is reasonable accommodation, without asking. A lot of people think you're exaggerating or lying. Then we run the risk of hearing, "Why are you so emotional? Maybe you're overreacting. Calm down. Don't be hysterical. You give your pain too much attention." In response to that descriptive language, I've been downplaying my symptoms for 25 years, even to doctors, and I know it's not good for me, but if they write me off, that's even worse for me.
So I do really think these Reddit comments very much show the actual struggle of what people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and people just want to be believed, and that is the biggest struggle out of everything. Not just dealing with the mental invisible disability itself, it's just people just want other people to believe them when they don't. I think those Reddit comments very much explain what it's like dealing with a mental invisible disability, and the major thing people just want who have a mental invisible disability, they just want to be believed. And I've mentioned this before in my last two videos, visible disabilities. I still think it's very much here, but basically all people want is just to be believed and taken seriously, because it's bluntly unfair for them to basically play this game of push and pull for people to take them seriously, because sometimes they're not allowed to dress up too much, or they look too put together. They're not allowed to dress down because they just are depressed and not able to actually dress themselves in the morning because what they're going through. And it's always this push and pull of them just wanting to be taken seriously and them playing this game so they can look the right way, so people can take them seriously, so they can get the help they need. And then on top of all that, people who lie and bullshit about this kind of stuff because they want attention from the internet or people around them, or even both, and those people get taken more seriously compared to the people who have the actual condition and are actually struggling, and it makes it harder for people who are dealing with those conditions to be taken seriously because of people who lie. And I really don't understand why liars get taken more seriously compared to the actual people that are struggling with these actual conditions? Like, is it because they just don't have the right Instagram filter for your, like, Instagram post aesthetic to like? Because these people are actually struggling. Why do they need to look perfect for the internet? They are struggling. They don't need to look Instagram perfect for you to take them seriously. And I think it's so freaking stupid. We've heard so many times in the past of examples of people lying about this kind of stuff. And I think this is sad fact is with invisible mental disabilities. It's more common for people to lie about this kind of stuff compared to the other invisible disabilities, just because of how hard it is to actually officially diagnose, and you bluntly can't see it whatsoever, so you can't call them out on their bullshit. And then when you do, because people believe them, you are the asshole in the situation, when in reality they're the ones lying about the condition, when say you're the one who has the condition, and it's fucking bullshit. And I've said this before in my other 2 videos, and I'm probably gonna say it in my next video with invisible disabilities. It fucking sucks. Why do people that lie get more believed about this kind of stuff than people these conditions? And when people actually do need help and money for this kind of stuff and they can't afford it on their own because, you know, the world's fucked, people refuse to actually help them because of these other people who lie about this kind of stuff that are scamming people. They get believed and then scam a bunch of people, and then it makes it harder for people who actually do need the help to get money and funding for it, because people think they're scamming when in reality they're not. And a sad fact is, when people have mental invisible disabilities and they get the courage to tell someone about it, they have to deal with the struggle with, like, people believing them and understanding them and taking them seriously. And then on top of that, even doctors in the medical industry won't take them seriously when they should. Because yes, a lot of people lie about this kind of stuff, but then also there's a lot of people aren't lying and just want people to take them seriously. And then on top of that, once they do tell someone they assume they trust, they also have to deal with the stigma with having that type of mental invisible disability. A lot of negative stigmas against having a invisible disability that people associate that condition with, when it's bluntly untrue and it's a lie, but the negative stereotype about that condition affects people as well, because again, once you tell someone about that kind of stuff, that's what they immediately think, instead of being understandable and trying to learn about the condition. And like I mentioned before, sad fact is, it's really common for people online to lie about having a mental invisible disability, because you literally can't see it whatsoever. And when people call them out on that shit, you look like the asshole, because why are you picking on someone with a mental invisible disability when in reality they don't, they just look TikTok pretty. And again, it's really common for people to lie about that kind of stuff just because you can't see it. And that's a really sad fact, is that's more common to lie about and say you have other invisible disabilities. And it doesn't mean people don't lie about that. They definitely do. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's very annoying and frustrating. And people who probably see that and witness it with their own eyes, who do have that invisible mental disability and see that shit and get really annoyed by it, because, you know, they don't have the condition, but then also you don't truly know as well on top of that. If you go check out my last video, I kind of cover when people go online and talk about invisible learning disabilities. Here I'm going to go over when people talk about invisible mental disabilities, and again, people are just using very broad terms about it instead of actually going, oh, this is what you have. And with like having a mental invisible disability, when people talk about it online and not getting the negative stigmatism, there's a thing in your eye, the negative stigma about it, where people talk about, oh, you might have this condition, when they go over very broad signs that like normal everyday people would have. And And then people go off that and go, oh yes, I have this mental invisible disability, when they absolutely don't, when some of these signs just pop up. But I do want to put this here. I mentioned this in both of my last videos, but I'm going to mention this here. If you come across those videos of TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc., where they briefly talk about having a mental disability and some signs, and you think you might have that condition, please go get professionally diagnosed. Yes, I'm contradicting myself saying it is very hard to do, but it is worth it to actually get checked out and actually see if you have that condition, because that's how you can get the actual proper help you need to function in society, instead of just going off what Dr. TikTok tells you with broad ass terms, just going off that, because in reality, no, TikTok is not a doctor, and I know not a lot of people can afford to get that and go get properly diagnosed, but I do recommend please go actually get proper diagnosis of a invisible disability if you think you have one, and then it gives you that ease of mind of what you have instead of just going off what TikTok tells you. And I don't just mean TikTok, but it's really popular at the moment, but I also mean other social media apps like Instagram, TikTok, etc. All the other ones. There's too many now. Anyway, so please go get professionally diagnosed if you think you have one of those conditions, and then you can get the actual help you need, like medication, assistance, etc. Even if I'm contradicting myself, I do really, really recommend to go do that. So, or even just save up so you can do that, because it is better in the long run compared to like not getting diagnosed whatsoever. TikTok is not a doctor, Instagram is not a doctor, YouTube is not a doctor. Please go see a actual medical person. I do really recommend to actually go get professionally diagnosed, okay? Again, because we don't want more people running around lying about having a mental invisible disability without actually getting diagnosed, and it's just bullshit and it's a lie. We have too many people like that running around, okay? And annoying thing about it is people treat having a mental invisible disability that are lying about it, they treat it like a cute little personality quirk, like being clumsy, or I don't know, other shit that I can't think of right now. But it's not a cute little personality quirk you can slip into conversations. It is a actual real struggle people deal with on a day-to-day basis, and you say that shit and not dealing with the negative stigma with having that condition, and you just treating it like a cute little personality quirk. It is not. It is a real fucking struggle a lot of people deal with on the day-to-day basis, and you're using it for attention, and it is not a personality quirk you can put into conversations. So here is a Reddit thread I came across that explains going through and dealing with a invisible mental disability on a day-to-day basis. I'll pop the post up on screen for you guys, and then I'll show you the comments that I found really interesting up on screen for you guys after I show you guys the full post. So I'll pop it on screen for you guys.
Why are people needlessly cruel to those of us with invisible disabilities? Rant: I don't have a visible physical disability such as missing limbs, but I still have disabilities. People use the anonymity of the internet to bully because it apparently gets them off on making others upset. ADHD, bipolar, PTSD, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, autism, and the countless other mental disabilities that exist. They are disabling. Those of us with these conditions suffer. If we show our symptoms, people call us crazy, or we aren't trying hard enough to overcome it/control it, or we just want attention or for people to feel sorry for us. If we don't show our symptoms, then we don't actually have anything wrong with us, and we just want attention and want pity. See how that works? You're just a bunch of snowflakes. Everyone has these problems. You're not trying to power through it. You're just crying about it. You just want people to feel sorry for you. You're making it up. You just want to label everything. These didn't even exist when I was growing up, etc., etc. These are the comments I see everywhere on social media, and yes, it gets to me because it's everywhere. And those of us who are chronic pain patients, same thing. It's invisible, so we are making it up. double quote, if it was really hurting that bad, you'd be crying. And if I do cry, suck it up. I had to go to work with 2 broke feet. It's not that bad. Just take some Tylenol. So if I'm not crying, it isn't real. If I am crying, I'm being a baby. Melting face, melting face, melting face, melting face. Thanks for listening, Reddit.
So this first Reddit comment I'm going to show you guys, I think the first half of it's really good, and then like the second half of it gets a little bit political. I just want to put that here, but I think they explain it really well. Basically, they need to hide themselves to basically so they can get taken seriously and function in society, instead of like what a lot of people saying, be yourself, it's okay, you can tell us what you have, and then once people do, the negative stereotype gets pushed onto them, and then they won't be taken seriously or respected whatsoever. So anyway, I'll show you guys the rest of these Reddit comments that I found really interesting and explain sadly what a lot of people's experiences are like dealing with a mental invisible disability.
Sure, I'm autistic, and it's hard. I've just built up so much charisma over the years. People can't tell. I essentially have to hide. It's my personality, but it does suck. But being honest, America specifically is a pretend meritocracy bordering on a fascist oligarchy that promotes individualism to discourage people from coming together and challenging their power. It's better to instill hate and division for the most vulnerable populations, so no one comes to their aid. From there, they use us as test dummies for the policies that they'll eventually use on the rest of America, and the rest of America sees this and never want to be us. Hence, the hate. Nobody has said it to my knowledge, so I'm going to. It's fear, society expectations, not wanting to provide reasonable accommodations. DJT has said some horrible things about our disabilities community. I think it's because he has undiagnosed or covered up learning disabilities. Other reasons can be projecting or a sense of superiority. What we can do is be with people who lift us up and bring joy while standing up to those who don't, even if it includes family. Chronic pain started, I knew I was effed, not just because of the pain but because socially, especially as a man, this was never going to fly. In fact, I knew it was going to crash and burn, and I would burn with it.
So those are the Reddit comments I wanted to show you guys, and I kind of want to end off this video with people that are dealing with a mental invisible disability, or even just a invisible disability. All they want is to be believed and taken seriously, because sadly not a lot of people do believe them or take them seriously, because literally seeing is believing, when that's literally not the case. You can have things wrong with you and no one can see it, and I think that's fucking bullshit. So if you have a friend, family member, or even someone you know who is brave enough to tell you they have a invisible mental disability, all I ask you is to sit and listen to them and try to understand where they're coming from, or just sympathize with them. And that's all they want. They don't want solutions, because they already know the solutions. Everyone around them tells them what the stupid solutions are to whatever they have. They just want people to listen and believe them and take them seriously. And please do that, because it is very scary coming out and telling people what you have, because the negative stigma against it. So please just try to understand and believe where your friend, family member, etc. is coming from. That's all I ask. And what they're going through is real, even if you can't see it, and it is real to them. And sadly, there is a very small minority, I guess not really small minority, of people who lie about this kind of stuff for attention, money, etc. because you can't see it, so people believe what they say, because they have the right aesthetic to have that kind of condition, instead of people that are actually dealing with it. So please just believe your friends, family members, or even acquaintance who comes to you about saying they have a mental invisible disability, and just try to believe them and understand where they're coming from. And that's what I'm trying to get across in all of my invisible disabilities little series, is just try to understand and sympathize and listen to your friends, family, etc. who have a invisible disability. That's what I'm trying to get across in these videos. Instead of telling you what it is, I feel like you already know what it is. I just want people to have more understanding and sympathy towards those people. That's what I'm trying to get across in all of these little videos I do on this topic. I know this video isn't as long as my last videos. A lot of them have been really long. I do apologize about that. My limit is normally 3 hours on these things. Lately they've kind of been reaching 4. I do apologize about that. I just don't want to split up the emotions into different chapters online. I think that's overkill, anyway. Also, I do want to add this here. I did find this very interesting, learning about different types of mental invisible disabilities. I did find that very interesting because I don't really know that much about mental invisible disabilities. So, because I do have a little bit more knowledge about learning disabilities, you obviously know in my last video, and also talking to people and friends who have invisible disabilities but they're physical. So learning and researching this video I found very interesting, and learning more about people that have invisible mental disabilities, I just found that very interesting. I just kind of want to put that here. So again, if I get anything wrong, please let me know, because again, I'm not that knowledgeable about this topic. I also hope you learned something in this week's video, even if it's just stepping away and just being more understanding and sympathetic towards people that have invisible disabilities. That's kind of what I want to get across in all my invisible disabilities type of videos. I just want people to leave with more sympathetic and understanding towards people that have invisible disabilities. That's all I want. Thank you for watching this week's video. You can subscribe if you want to. It's okay if not. I upload every week, sometimes 3 times a month, depends what I'm working on. If you guys want to keep up to date with the channel, you can follow the channel's social medias. That's where I post little updates on what I'm working on and what things I find and I want to show you guys that I find interesting. That will be linked in the description down below, and if you guys want to follow me personally, all of my social medias are down below. And yeah, thank you for watching this week's video. Happy Halloween, stay safe out there. People get a little bit mental around Halloween. Dress up, have fun, enjoy some sweets, enjoy some lollies, enjoy some candy, whatever pronunciation you have of sweets, and have fun, dress up, and have a good time. But be safe, because people get a little bit mental around holidays. So, be safe, have fun, and I'll see you in my next video. Happy Halloween!